We got a secret weapon. God is our co-pilot.
You'll need it.
God is our co-pilot?
Huh? Remember our car?
Yeah?
2 seats?
2 seats.
Where's he gonna sit? Where?
I'm Matt.
Hey, I'm Steve.
Hey, I'm John.
This is the Sober Friends Podcast. We're here for the sober curious, the new guy, and the old-timer. We're here to talk about the stuff anyone looking to live alcohol-free has to face day to day, and how we overcame those struggles. We speak for no 12-step group, but we do try to remain anonymous. You're not alone. This is the Sober Friends Podcast. One of the biggest things in recovery, and one of the things in recovery that can scare a lot of people, is God, higher power, needing to find something outside of you to help you get sober. I have been on a journey trying to find the higher power of my understanding for quite a while now, and I think I'm on the path of what I believe as opposed to what I do not. Steve, I know that you have been on a similar path, and you shared something at Joe and Charlie this week.
Listen, I'm on a spiritual journey, right? I mean, we've talked about that. AA is the big part of it. Is you got to find a higher power, a power greater than yourself. For me, right? For me, I grew up Catholic. I grew up very religious, and all through, even through my young adulthood, all of that kind of stuff. As I said at the Joe and Charlie meeting, or I said somewhere else, for a long time, like you would go into the church, which was an Episcopal church at that time, and you would see my picture at the back of the church because I was assistant treasurer for about 8 years. I was very involved with it. But I've been on this journey that has changed, right? And I've talked about it here, and I talk about it everywhere because I need to talk about it in order to continue on that journey. So it's just, there's a lot of different stuff, and sometimes I struggle with it. Most of the times I don't, but yeah, it's an interesting thing. And then at our Joe and Charlie, we always bring a reading if you're sharing. And I had found this thing. It was actually in my notes on my phone. Like, I don't even remember putting it there, and I was sitting down there reading it. I'm like, I think this is appropriate to share at that meeting. And yeah, it seemed like everybody liked it.
Well, I'm going to share that reading now. It is attributed to Einstein.
Right.
It's a lecture attributed to Einstein giving lectures in the United States about God, and he said he believes in Spinoza's God. Baruch de Spinoza was a Dutch philosopher considered one of the greatest rationalists of the 17th century. So this is attributed to Einstein. Stop praying. What I want you to do is go out into the world and enjoy your life. I want you to sing, have fun, and enjoy everything I've made for you. Stop going to those dark, cold temples that you built yourself, saying they are my house. My house is in the mountains, in the woods, in the rivers, lakes, beaches. That's where I live, and that is where I express my love for you. Stop blaming me for your miserable life. I never told you there was anything wrong with you, or that you were a sinner, or that your sexuality was a bad thing. Sex is a gift that I've given, and with which you can express your love, your ecstasy, your joy. So don't blame me for everything they made you believe. Stop reading alleged sacred scriptures that have nothing to do with me. If you can't read me in a sunrise, in a landscape, in the look of your friends, in your son's eyes, you will find me in no book. Stop asking me, will you tell me how to do my job? Stop being scared of me. I don't judge you or criticize you, nor get angry or bothered. I'm pure love. Stop asking for forgiveness. There's nothing to forgive. If I made you, I filled you with passions, limitations, pleasures, feelings, needs, inconsistencies, free will. How can I blame you if you respond to something I put in you? How can I punish you for being the way you are if I'm the one who made you? Do you think I could create a place to burn all my children who behave badly for the rest of eternity? What kind of God would do that? Respect your peers and don't do what you don't want for yourself. All I ask is that you pay attention in your life, that alertness is your guide. My beloved, this life is not a test, not a step on the way, not a rehearsal, not a prelude to paradise. This life is the only thing here now, and it's all you need. I have set you absolutely free. No prizes, no punishments, no sins, no virtues. No one carries a marker. No one keeps a record. You're absolutely free to create in your life heaven or hell. I can't tell you there's anything after this life, but I can give you a tip. Live as if there is not, as if this is your only chance to enjoy, to love, to exist. So if there's nothing after, then you're going to have to enjoy the opportunity I gave you. And if there is, rest assured that I won't ask you if you behaved right or wrong. I'll ask, did you like it? Did you have fun? What did you enjoy the most, and what did you learn? Stop believing in me. Believing is assuming, guessing, imagining. I don't want you to believe in me. I want you to believe in you. I want you to feel me when you kiss your beloved, when you tuck in your little girl, when you caress your dog, when you bathe in the sea. Stop praising me. What kind of egomaniac God do you think I am? I'm bored of being praised. I'm tired of being thanked. Feeling grateful? Prove it by taking care of yourself, your health, your relationships, the world. Express your joy. That's the way to praise me. Stop complicating things and repeating as a parakeet as you've been taught about me. What do you need more miracles for? So many explanations. The only thing for sure is that you're here, that you're alive, and the world is full of wonders. And that is definitely the type of God that I'd be looking for.
There's so much in there that I like, right? There's so much in there that I think also speaks to me and also speaks to my journey, right? Like, why would God create a hell? Why does God need so much praise? But like many things I could pull out of there. We can talk about this for hours. I can talk about this for hours.
Me too.
Just pull out threads of this thing and tell you, yeah, this is my journey, right? Like, I don't have answers for this, but this is my journey. Mm-hmm. This is why I don't fall into that religious God, that almighty being who sort of controls everything. And one of the things I would say is, one of the things you hear in a lot of religious communities is they give God all the praise, right? Like, thank God for doing this. I give all glory to God. But yet when something bad happens, they go, two things. We can't understand God's will. We don't know what God's will is, or, God just didn't shine upon us, or whatever it might be. Like, God doesn't get any, the religious God, for the most part, doesn't get any credit for the bad shit that happens, right? And that's been one of my issues as I've gone on my journey, is that I hear, oh yeah, I'm supposed to give all this glory, yet the bad shit, like the babies dying and all this stuff, so it's been part of my journey. Like I said, I just stumbled upon this reading that at some point last year, it was 2 years ago, I pasted it into my notes on my iPhone, and like I said, I just stumbled upon it, but it sort of reflects where I'm at in my journey right now. And I said it, I'll finish with this. I say it all the time. Like, I find my higher power outside nowadays. I find it in the woods. I find it when I'm doing stuff like out there doing that kind of stuff. I also find it when I'm out in the community helping people. Like, that's where I find it today. And that is what this reading speaks of. So if you hung in there and you listened to it, because it was quite a long reading, if not, hopefully you can go back and listen to it again. And I'm sure you can find it out there. And I really think it's a nice way to look at your higher power.
I have been working outside most of this week, kind of by accident. I work from home. I have this whole setup. It's the same setup that I use when I'm podcasting. And I have the ability to take my laptop and go outside. I have a new computer, which has a better screen. So it's nice to have two screens, but I don't need it. I have this little dog that is known to bite people when he's outside. He's very anxious. He gets nervous. He gets fearful. And if somebody approaches him, especially on the property, he may bite them. So I don't trust putting him outside alone without eyes on him. it's been nice here in the Northeast, so I could take my laptop and go to the little table on the patio and watch him. And I discovered I really like doing that.
Yeah.
Last week was a week I didn't have to present, so it didn't really matter whether I was inside or not. I could get my work done, and Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I was out there the whole day. And it totally changed how I felt in my reflection towards work. And it made me feel like, why didn't I do this earlier? If I work from home, why am I not taking advantage of, why am I recreating an office when I can recreate it somewhere else? And I felt much more alive.
Yeah, if you can do that, I mean, one of the things that that happened during COVID lockdown is that people realized that you can work a lot of different places.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of places, like we have a small coffee shop in town here called Silk City. And I remember when they opened, I'm like, coffee shop, and it's not my thing. But I do go in there once in a while, and it's just amazing how many people are sitting there. And I'm sure a lot of them are working, right?
Yep.
Like they are literally working in this coffee shop, having a coffee with their laptops, doing work, right? And it just to show, it goes to show you that there's so many options out there. And I love to be outside. Like my wife and I will watch shows, and like everybody, will stream different series and stuff. And I have this thing that typically I don't do that during the day on nice days, right? Like on nice days, I want to be outside. I'll be walking the dog. I'll be doing yard work. I want to be doing something. I don't work outside as much because I don't need to do that anymore. But I do like being outside. And that, for me, that goes in all weather, cold, whatever. I just like being outside. So to me, again, that's where sort of I've sort of settled into this thing where that's part of my draw. It's part of where I go. The other thing, and I've shared it here before, is that, and this is kind of new to me, the revelation is new, is that I find that I like being out in the woods alone, right? My dog maybe, but I do a lot of hiking and stuff with other people, and there's a lot of chatter and talk going on there, but I also like being out alone where I have time to think and be on my own. And that's where I have found this quiet time of reflection to be very powerful for me. And it's something that I've come to enjoy, and it's something that I've been missing because I've got some complications going on at home that I haven't been able to get out there. But I need to do that for my own well-being, physically and mentally, spiritually, because it's what helps settle me down when I'm kind of anxious.
I've talked a little bit about Back to Eden gardening, a bit.
Yeah.
And the guy who is kind of coined the phrase is this guy, Paul Gauci. He lives out in the Olympic part of Washington State. He did tours of his garden up until about 2022, and he's kind of hobbled. He said that he's got this very bad limp where he can barely use his legs because of exposure to Agent Orange in Vietnam, and that the food he eats from his garden is what has kept him alive. And he calls it Back to Eden because he is going back to the way God intended us to grow food and to eat. In a nutshell, it means covering the soil and not disturbing it. He went to the forest and he looked around and said, the God was not around tilling the soil and weeding and doing all that stuff that nature does what nature's supposed to do. And he just wants to recreate that and step back. And he's had remarkable results doing this. There is a film that if you're into gardening, I would highly recommend. There's no cost for it. You can go to backtoedenfilm.com. And he talks about God over and over and over again. And he goes into the Proverbs, and it is at times almost overbearing religious. On his film, on his tours where people have taped them, he has been asked, well, what church do you go to? He goes, I don't go to church. I don't go to church because God isn't there. God is here. And that's where I commune with God. And that is more, I don't know if God exists. I definitely know that the God of the Catholic Church or the God going to a building to find is not for me. The views of don't do this, don't do that. I have real problems when we talk about God of, God loves us, but if you're gay and you live a lifestyle that is LGBTQ, you're going to hell.
To burn in hell for eternity.
Yes.
Right?
Eternity is an awfully long time.
Right. So that's the right. That's the problematic thing. And listen, these are our views. If you're out there and you believe in these things, please don't look at us as like we're rallying against that in general. I know lots of people who believe in that, and I'm very comfortable with them believing in that.
And by the way, I'm also very envious of people who have.
I agree.
That connection.
I agree. I am too. I am too. Sometimes it's like, sometimes I do. I look at people and I go, oh man, I wish I could be that. Like I wish I could be like that. Mm-hmm. And for me, that does. And just like you, it doesn't work. So, and I agree. Like that's the sticking point for me. And I love you have talked about the gardening before and that whole thing. I mean, that was years ago where you started doing some of that stuff. And
it's been about 10 years since I found him.
Right. And
it was John who told me about him.
Oh, okay. And
John watched him much earlier than me.
And I don't remember anything about the God stuff. I mean, I do remember you talking about the forest and stuff like that, and like let nature do its thing. But I do like that idea, and I do like the idea that, listen, the thing I like about that reading too, again, I can pull pieces out of this, and there's one of my buddies who I'll see today who always likes to say that God is love. And I like that description of God, right? Mm-hmm. God is love, right? God, my higher power, and I could see that, right? That could be your higher power, love. Like love your neighbor, love your, love everybody as you love yourself, all those type of things. That's something that I can really look at. And it's something that I strive to think of that as my higher power, or being a characteristic of my higher power, right? Not the damnation God, but the love God. And so again, so much in this reading that I like, and I'm glad you brought it up today again, because it just brought me in, because I could have read it on Wednesday night and then I could have forgotten about it for a long time, but it's something that I probably need to look at and read every once in a while just to keep me focused on it.
This is one of the big things I have a problem with Pope Francis, and it's probably not a place that people are thinking I'm going to go. In that reading, it talked about take care of you and your health. Mm. And I think it's in reading a lot about Pope Francis, although he was 88, I think he worked himself into a death, that he was given doctor's orders a long time ago to, you have to slow down. And he refused, to the point of having pneumonia and almost dying in the hospital. And even then, he wouldn't slow down. He gets out of the hospital against all odds, survives the respiratory infection, right, and works himself into a stroke. Again, 88 years old. It's not an early death, but I think that if he could have been more respectful of his own health, does he need to be the guy who's going out there pushing and pushing and pushing at Eastern Mass when nobody can understand him and somebody is holding up a bottle of water for him to drink? I know there's an inspiration in somebody really hurting and being in suffering and being out there. Would it have been more respectful of God to say, I need to take a step back? It doesn't need to be me as the Pope doing all these things at 88. I need to share the example of, I'm not well, and I'm going to rest and take care of me so I can take care of the flock.
Right. Yeah, that's always a challenge. I think that's a challenge for anybody in those leadership positions. And again, he was 88. It wasn't a timely death. I mean, it wasn't an untimely death. And I always say when you get to be 88 or 90 or something like that, like people say, well, what did he die of? Oh, he died of a stroke. And I always say, well, he died because he was 88. And you're right. He died because he worked hard and he didn't take care of himself. And he, his job was to serve his flock. And I don't know, it's appropriate. I know a lot of people out there, right? They were like, the fact that he came out and gave that little message, which I didn't see. I mean, I saw the news clips of it. I didn't listen to it or anything. But that was a powerful message to believing Catholics that they saw him, and then he passed the next day. So there was a message in there for them that, you know, it was their final time to be able to spend and commune with their Pope. So good, you know. Listen, it's what it is over there. There's a lot of people who believe that. There's a lot of people who that's important to them. And again, I'm all for that. I have some very good friends. Matter of fact, one of the guys at our Monday night meeting pulled me aside and we were talking about it because, you know, the Pope, and we were talking about my beliefs and his beliefs, and he's a Catholic, and we had a nice conversation about it. Right. And, you know, I just told him where I stand, and I know where he stands, and it's fine. And that's the whole thing about our recovery. Right. And again, get back to that. So the whole thing about our recovery is that in any room you sit with 25 people, pretty much everybody has a different concept of what, even if they're the same faith, right, and the same religious, they have somewhat of a different concept of what God means to them.
Right.
And I find that to be beautiful. Again, I happen to work in an industry that put me in context with a lot of Muslims, right? Like literally lots of Muslim people. And I hung out with them, and I broke bread with them, and all those kind of things. And it gave me an early thing into seeing other people and how they live their faith. And it was just an eye-opening thing, right? I mean, because, listen, I was working with a lot of these people through 9/11.
Yes.
Right? When it happened. Right? I had I had to sort of reconcile all that. And the fact that I was able to spend time with those people, you know, who believed differently than I at the time believed, and at that time I believed very differently, to see that, you know, we all want the same thing for our, you know, we all want the same thing for our children, right? We all want the same thing for our families. And it's important to know that we can look at things different, right? And still have the same goals in mind. You know, what Tony used to say, right? Big Tony from the Thursday night meeting. That's where I knew him from. Used to say, you know, his higher power is like God is like a mountain. Right, I'm paraphrasing this.
I use this all the time.
Right, and you could sit on all different sides of the mountain, and it looks different. Like, it looks different getting up to the summit, but it's all the same place. And I thought that was a great analogy where, you know, someone who does climb mountains and does take up different routes and different paths up to different mountains, that, yeah, it looks different from different angles, but it's all the same place when you get on top. So I like that analogy. I like that analogy when it comes to God and faith, or your higher power, whatever you want to call it. It helps me understand other people, is what it helps me do.
I'm pretty sure I know the guy who talked to you the other night, because if it's the person I'm thinking of, I've seen them in church.
Yeah.
I've sat in the same pew as them. And that person I'm envious of, because going to a Catholic Mass is something that gives them peace and comfort, and there's a lot they get out of it. And when I'm at a Catholic Mass, I just can't wait to leave.
Yeah.
There is a writer and podcaster who I adore by the name of Jonathan V. Last from The Bulwark. And he is very steeped in Catholicism. He clearly gets something from being Catholic. And every once in a while, he'll respond back to my emails to him. And next question I have from him is, I would really love you to just walk me through, what is it about your Catholic faith that gives you such strength? I love hearing those stories without judgment. I really see the God thing, and this relates to recovery, as we've been talking about God as a society from antiquity. And I think there is something there. To me, some type of higher power greater than us is this weave between people, between us and animals, in nature, the grass that's growing, the woods, the beach, that there is something I feel in those situations. And we all feel that pull, I think, in different ways. Going to temple, going to a mosque, praying 5 times a day brings that spirituality to some people. And that structure can be important. It's not a thing that I feel. But I was out this morning, again, watching my dog where it was chillier than it's been. And it's great in the morning when the sun's coming up and that feeling.
Yeah.
That's what I feel. And there's a physical aspect to it that if you can get outside early, it builds the sleep pressure for later in the day so you get a good night's sleep.
No, I agree with that. It is nice to be out in the morning when the sun's just coming up. I get up early. I'm out with the dog myself sometimes. I don't always go out with the dog, but because she goes and comes on her own. But it is nice when that sun comes up and it's chilly like it was this morning, which was chilly.
Yep.
And that sun gets on you and you could feel that warmth. And it does feel a little spiritual. Like it does feel a little spiritual, like you're being warmed up. And again, that's being outside, being nature, all those things we've talked about. It's a lot of those things, right? Some of that is physical, right? Literally the sun is, just like you said, the sun is making your mood better, right? Because of all the things that it brings with it, right? So I do believe that some of it is really a physical thing going on. Just as getting outside and working and exercising and breathing and doing those things add some, again, I'm sort of rambling, but it's a little bit, to me, it's all tied in, right? It's sort of like that, physical, spiritual, mental health stuff is all tied together for me. And I noticed that when I stop taking care of one of those things, everything else seems to struggle, right? So, and they all seem to be tied in, together for me. So, love getting out there, love feeling it. I love talking about it and, trying to figure out, what my journey looks like and doing the podcast and having a discussion like this is just helpful to me.
And I think it's helpful. I see it when people respond that we get the email that comes in and either argues,
right?
Which is not, people don't really argue with us. They're like, I want you to think about, our audience is great because when they disagree, they reach out and say, I want you to think about this experience. And I think you would like this if you saw it this way. Or, wow, that really connected. And you put the words in my mouth that I couldn't feel.
Right.
There's a lot of that. On my other TikTok account, which I don't talk about recovery, and I post clips of like nostalgia stuff. And there are people who, like, I felt the exact same way about the movie. Like, I've been posting a lot about the movie Midnight Madness and the Cannonball Run, which are films on HBO I watched as a kid and watched them over and over and over and over and over again because there really was nothing else to watch. But this stuff came up on HBO, and lo and behold, people are responding saying, I thought I was the only one who did that.
Yeah.
I watched that movie over and over and over again. I loved it when this happened. I loved it when Dom DeLuise was Captain Chaos, and they repeat the same lines that I felt I was so alone.
Right.
There has to be something that there is a connection that hundreds, thousands, millions of people had the same experience in isolation that I did, and we can connect over those now.
Yeah, I listen. I always say it. When I share some things, I always say, in context, though, if the religious people will say this was a God shot or this was God working in my life, right? I talk about those things a lot. Like I don't believe that my higher power works in that way, so I don't find that, it's working that way for me. But I understand that people say that, oh, this happened in my life and I feel that it was God intervening, right? And they get solace, they get something out of it. And again, I don't look down upon that. I look at those people and I am genuinely happy for them.
Me too.
That they found that, and they have something with that. I am genuinely happy for them, even though it's not what I believe. So, because it just makes the world a better place, right? And again, if you're using this, and again, and I don't want to get too far off on it, but if you believe in a damning, angry, vengeful God, again, that's yours. That's yours. But the God I like to believe in, the higher power I like to believe in, is one of love, is of grace, is of, helpfulness. It's all of those type of things. And again, I go back to the reading that you read at the beginning of the podcast, all of those things that it talks about there, right? Those things are important to me to understand my higher power. And I think really, really good to bring this back up and talk about it again, twice in like a 5-day period,
Yeah.
So
I don't think this was, Bill's idea of a power greater than you in his mind was that of first century Christianity, getting on your knees in a building. I do see that whatever that connection is, whether it is in recovery, definitely in recovery, that brings us together, or anywhere else, it is the community aspect that you didn't know you had something in common, that your piece and my piece together is synergistic and can get greater than 100%, is a higher power that is critical to getting sober, but is also critical of happiness. And that community that brings us together in ways we can't understand, where you help another person in a way that nobody else can, and yet you feel a lot better than the help you've given them that has been existential to them.
Right.
Has helped them in a way that has turned their life, and yet I feel I was even more served than you were.
Right.
That to me is a higher power. Steve, thank you for talking this through, for sharing that poem, and for getting us all to think.
Yeah, you're welcome, Matt. And for our listeners out there, I'm sure, I'm thinking that this podcast might get a lot of feedback, good and bad. Like I said, there might be some things. So I'm anxious to.
You don't agree.
Right. I'm anxious to hear. Reach out to us. Let us know. I'm anxious for you to give us some feedback, because I say it all the time that I learn more about myself by doing things like this. So please reach out and let us know what you're thinking. Thanks, Matt.
We'll see everybody next week. Bye, everybody.